Welcome to the Daily Exchange, guys. We're back here. We're here with Jeff Yu from Binance Australia. We're going to talk all about the Binance chain, where it's going, dApps, NFTs, whatever you've got, institutional traders, guys. We'll see you guys right after this. Okay, welcome to the Daily Exchange. We've got Jeff Yu. Welcome and joining us at the actual studio. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Awesome stuff. Tell us, Jeff, you're the CEO of Binance Australia. What does that involve? Tell us about Binance in Australia and its motivation for coming here and things like that.
Yeah, so Binance Australia is an Australian exchange like other exchanges that people are familiar with. So that's like deposit AUD, withdraw AUD, trade AUD, those kind of things. But we're more than that. Like we're part of the big Binance ecosystem as well. So we definitely plug into a lot of the activities and a lot of innovation and projects on the overall Binance ecosystem. And that's really what it's all about. It's not about just trading. It's more than that. It's about bringing that freedom of money, the adoption to more people in various ways.
We'll get into some of those finer elements. To begin, but I think, Jeff, obviously starting, being the CEO here in Australia, tell us about your journey into crypto, just to share with everyone.
Oh yeah, I remember this. So I remember it was this April of 2013. That was the peak of the secret financial crisis where people were getting their savings wrecked by the government. And then I saw a post on Reddit explaining what Bitcoin is. It's a pretty long article, I think it's still there. I posted on Twitter the other day and I go like, the sentiments of the bullish people and the skeptics kind of talking about the same thing 8 years into the future. So like, people don't change. But I think what really made me sort of click about Bitcoin, I think that was, it took me a while to discover the importance of it because back then there was no resources like what we have here, people talking about, teaching about all this content. What really got me was that it is a unstoppable money because it's decentralized. And that will basically, that is one of the most important infrastructures in mankind. Like think about like if you build a bridge, if you build an M1, let's say the M1 basically brought people's lives better, maybe like a couple of million Australians over the few decades. But Bitcoin, it will bring freedom to so many more people. We're talking about billions of people that doesn't have the access and the sort of inclusivity to the systems that we take for granted, like payments, banking, loans, even setting up a business requires a lot of this kind of stuff in between. So we often underappreciate of what we have and take for granted, whereas people like let's say a farmer in Swaziland or a tractor driver in Sri Lanka. I mean, those people are hardworking people, no different than us, right? But it's not their fault of being in that regions that the banks don't see the value of serving them to the same level as we do. But with Bitcoin, if you have a wallet, a phone connected to the internet, you have exactly the same right to the systems that someone else in, let's say in Australia, sitting here in an office and maybe somewhere in the final office, we have basically the same right, the same same access to it, that it doesn't discriminate. So that will elevate up the, in my vision is that Bitcoin would elevate up a lot of this, financial inclusion to more people. And that will mean bringing more freedom of, access to trade and global commerce unprecedentedly, for the next 10 years. And as more people adopt it, more people understand the technology and build stuff around it, innovation and all this kind of dApp stuff, the NFTs and all this kind of innovation, that will really change the world. That's the most important project that I can think that we are involved in. And I can't, as a CEO of an Australian exchange, I can't think of like a more important job for me to do right now than to, make sure that we are part of this journey to build up that infrastructure.
Incredible. And I guess, the Australian market, how has Binance sort of navigated the compliance aspect and versus other jurisdictions? I know the US is quite is tougher, but I think, how's that? Have you found that?
Yeah, I can't speak for the US because we're Binance Australia, but in my experience in Australia is that it took us a long time to set up. We were here since 2018. I started Binance Smart Australia. It was a small brokerage, just kind of to test waters, and it took us like a year before as well to sort of develop the make sure that we navigate the regulation and everything correctly. And then it was a 2 years project in the making. Right, as soon as Binance Global launched, we were already looking at ideas of how do we bring this thing to Australia, and because of how a giant moves and moves a little bit slower, there's a lot of hoops to go through. But we make sure we tick every single box. We are registered with Austrac. We report to every single agencies that any other exchanges would. We set our standards, our compliance program to meet and exceed all the standards as well. So ultimately, it's about making sure that we run things proper. We provide the most safest product for users out there, because it's a new space. There's a lot of uncertainty. People trust us a lot on what we tell them, what we offer them. And as an exchange, we hold a lot of. Or I like to think that we are a very big part of people's first journey into crypto. We want to make sure that they have a good experience, they feel safe using it, and we're here for the long term as well. Yeah.
Does I guess with Binance today, you talked about other agencies. Do you have many requests from, I guess Austrac is the primary one. Is there? Do you have to work with other? I'm not sure who agencies in. Like does the tax office and stuff, or like the what's the how intense is that? Because obviously as a CEO, compliance is a big thing.
Yeah, so I can go into details on the correspondence we have in any particular agency, but we do work with from law enforcement to regulators alike. We maintain a lot of open communication with them. We did a lot of back and forth, some very interesting cases, but it all revolves around consumer protection. Because in crypto, there's a lot of uncertainty. People might not know that things are run a different way in crypto. Like if you lose your keys, what happens? And I think that's kind of where the regulation kind of lacks or can grow further into. Like not saying that Australia doesn't have good regulation. It's probably one of the best regulations in the world. Like we're probably one of the earliest places that had a central bank, the RBA, declared Bitcoin legal in 2013. That's like 8 years ago, right? And we have clear crypto taxation laws written by the ATO. It's like super comprehensive. You never see that in any other tax office around the world. We have Austrac that regulates cryptocurrency exchanges in that kind of clarity that no other countries have and probably envy about. But in terms of the next step, I would say it probably is about more of the consumer awareness protection part of crypto, because ultimately, Bitcoin is something that you can't regulate, or maybe you can regulate, but it's very hard or impossible to enforce regulation. So looking at things in the traditional way might not make sense that much, or might not be that effective. So I think that's where we want to continue to work with policymakers, people that are leading in this conversation with government and also with all the regulators there, to sort of make sure that we bring this to the next level, so that we can scale this to, let's say, currently I think that's 25% of Aussies ever touch crypto. We want to make that like 90, 100, right? It will become a basic utility, like everyone or almost everyone would use a bank account day to day, and crypto will become like that in what I see. Yeah.
Tell us, right now there's a lot of Binance has sort of grown past just a trading platform. Mm-hmm. Tell us about some of the new things. So the Binance Smart Chain. What is that, and what does that mean for people using Binance?
Yeah, so Binance Smart Chain is a community project that was developed initially by the Binance Global team. So as Binance Australia, we kind of a bit separated that, but because we're all in the same ecosystem, we get to see a lot of firsthand sort of how people use it, how it kind of progressed from a small project to right now people call it the Ethereum killer. So I'm interested to see how those things play out. But the interesting thing is that there is a lot of talented developers in this space. There's a lot of great entrepreneurs with really great and innovative ideas, and the BSC is just like a playground for them to sort of express their creativity and the talents to develop cool projects out there. So it's still very early. I can't really tell what's my thought about it, or what's my favorite project and those kind of things. But it is ultimately a infrastructure. It's a bridge. We build a bridge. People want to use the bridge to go to work. People want to use the bridge to as a whatever, right? We provide an infrastructure, they bring the innovation, and overall this is good for crypto.
And I think to help everyone out, there's projects like SushiSwap, there's projects like Curve, and they're obviously on Ethereum, and Ethereum fees are very high. And what I've noticed is Binance Smart Chain fees are probably 100x cheaper, they're more cost effective, and they're faster. This is my personal view. How is that possible? Why is that even? Yeah, how is that possible? And I guess what kind of innovation do you think that's actually helping to drive?
So think about if you're launching a project, you're deploying a piece of code or a dApp on any blockchain. Transaction fees is one of the big factors that would affect your business model, your profitability, and how you can price things for your users. So having the lowest fees obviously have its advantage. It's ultimately based on how the blockchain is kind of structured, and that sort of incentive system, that consensus model, and it's like in that utility-driven crypto space, we're still seeing a lot of experiments, a lot of people trying different ways of cooking the soup, and ultimately I think the market will pick the winner. Yeah,
it's amazing. I love it. Super fast. There's obviously a big movement now in the market is institutional players coming to join. What are you seeing in the Australian space, and what do you think is important to them?
Yeah, so I think that institution is a really big thing, right? The biggest difference between the 2017 run-up to this time's run-up is that 2017 is mostly retail-driven speculation. 2020 and above, that's all institutions. You got Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy putting almost Bitcoin in all of his fiat treasuries has been converted to Bitcoin. You got JP Morgan doing a 180 into something more friendly. They're launching a crypto product very soon. You got Tesla, right? Elon Musk with Tesla, bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin sometime in February. And it's all this kind of news about institutions playing a big part of it. And I think one of the factors is why now and why not before is because the post-COVID government reaction to monetary policies had kind of driven the cost of capital insanely insanely high right now. So previously with all the QEs and everything post 2008, all the previous financial crises, we're still expecting a 5-6% sort of real kind of inflation, right? And that's manageable. Most businesses can grow their cash flow, grow their treasury larger than 5 to 6% a year. But right now, look at all this thing. The U.S. itself, it's on poise to sort of print over $10 trillion with the latest edition of the 1.9 trillion stimulus package. That's $10 trillion in less than 12 months. That's really insane. Bitcoin's market cap is $1 trillion, right? It took them 10 months to print $10 trillion. So your real rate of monetary expansion is something like 20%, 15% at best, right? And how many companies can grow their treasuries in 15% a year? Not many, right? So if you're a corporate CEO and looking at your treasury and all in fiat and losing 15% of the purchasing value each year, right? Your your sort of purchasing power life cycle, it's basically reduced from 35 years to 5 years, meaning that you previously, with 5-6% growth expansion, $1 million, you would probably hit $500,000 of purchasing value in 35 years. That's a long time. But right now we're looking at 5 years. So it's basically a lifeboat that basically appeared out of 12, 13 years ago when Satoshi put out the white paper, and then now we have corporate CEOs looking at this as a real alternative, and that's I think that would be a big game changer, because there is no harder money than Bitcoin. That's just a fact.
Now, in terms of in the Australian market, depositing Australian dollars. It's not. I don't know if it's a relatively new feature or it wasn't in the beginning. It's now been a while now, which is great. How are you seeing the growth in specific Australian functionality and features? Where do you see what's in the future plans? What are you interested in? What can people learn?
Yeah. So talking about the deposits features and stuff like that. If you're in this space in 2013, 2014, that's where the exchanges started to pop up in Australia, you would be experiencing like, if you want to transfer money to an exchange, it takes you days, right? If you want it quicker, you have to go to the bank teller, withdraw cash, and go to the next teller, put in cash, deposit, and make it faster, right? That's basically the epitome of fast deposits. As a trader, and especially in cryptocurrencies, timing to the market is very important. You have to be quick sometimes. The reaction time is really slim. The window is really tight. And speed of transfers, bank transfers, is really the pain point for a lot of exchanges back then. With the introduction of the MPP by the MPPA, the new payments platform, then we have PayID, we have OSCO. That's a really good system. Like if you look at other places in the world, like instant, irreversible bank-to-bank transfer, it just doesn't exist, right? In Australia, it's a reality for like 3 years now. So when we developed Binance Australia, we basically go like, this is the best option for users to deposit money. First of all, it's instant. Second of all, it's final. So you don't have to worry about chargeback. I don't have to worry about chargebacks or that much, because if you do certain sort of risk and fraud control and stuff like that, you know what you're doing, you're pretty good. Like we process close to, I think maybe over, I think we broke $1 billion that we processed via PayID, and we have never had any losses to fraud. Right? It's just like, you have to have the expertise of building those systems, because my previous, before I was CEO of Binance Australia, I was the Chief Product Officer of Travel by Bit, which is a Queensland-based startup, and I helped grow it from a regional sort of travel agency to a global digital currency-powered OTA, online travel platform. And because my expertise in crypto payments helped me sort of understand more and pick up quicker in the traditional payments world as well. So with that two merge up together, we launched I think it's a much better product out there than what everyone is using previously. You can send money from your bank account to Binance Australia and start buying crypto within seconds. Sometimes it's faster than you can load the page. Withdrawals the same, right? So these are all really innovation that didn't happen before a year ago. And since then, you can see exchanges launching all the similar products out there, sort of make sure that we keep up to all the same standards and speed in this kind of things. Yeah, interesting to see. Yeah,
amazing. Any plans for a debit card or something like that, that Australians could expect, or things like, is there payments obviously is the other side, and using a crypto?
Yeah, so regarding, I assume you're talking about the Binance card. Yeah, so the Binance card is an initiative that's run by the Binance card team within the global exchange. Because there's a lot of intermediary parties and stuff like that and regulation they work through. Australia, we're kind of looking at previously somewhere around end of Q1, which is like supposed to be end of this month, but because of the recent rise and all this kind of stuff, the market's just going too crazy, just push a lot of our sort of things that we wanted to push into a lot of backlogs. So you might have to wait for maybe another quarter or max that we can see. But ultimately, this kind of stuff is very fluid. But if you want it faster, just make more noise on Twitter.
Tweet at Jeff. All right. In terms of, I guess that, just zooming out, cryptocurrency in Australia, where do you think we're at in the cycle, and what do you think is important in growing that?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, regulation-wise, Australia is there, right? Service providers-wise, like exchanges, banking support, they are there. I think one thing that is still lacking is the education part. It's like a lot of people, they are discovering crypto and like some magical money that the number just keep going up. I don't know what's causing that, the kind of things. And because of the lack of education, it's very easy for people to fall into honey traps in the crypto world. They're chasing all these big numbers, but they don't actually know what these projects actually are doing, right? Some of them might only learn it the hard way. Some of them are really lucky, like they get in and get out at the right time. But ultimately, educating the differences between fiat money and crypto, right? The one big important bit is that the removal of the intermediaries. So with like digital currencies like Bitcoin, it's an open, decentralized, it's transparent, versus like fiat, right? Something that you have to go through intermediary. Most of the stuff that you see on dApps and all these NFTs, they can be done by intermediary. Sometimes it might be better that it's done by this or done by that, but ultimately it's about the choice, right? Having crypto, having something like that is an alternative. It basically sets a check and balance to the traditional systems right now that the governments know that people have a choice, have a lifeboat. So not maybe in Australia you don't see that apparently, but in places like regimes that are have corrupt governments, have very failing systems, cryptocurrencies are literally an escape hatch. Right? Having those there, it's really important. Like I said, this is about changing the lives of billions of people. It's one of the most important infrastructures that is being built right now in the history of humanity. Yeah.
Awesome. And in terms of anything exciting you want to sort of share with our community in terms of what's coming up, Jeff, or anything new?
Well, I can't say too much about details of things, but I think this year we'll definitely see a lot of institutional growth and sort of the everything that comes with it is just going to be insane. If you think Elon tweeting about Doge and about buying Bitcoin, it's crazy. I think wait till you see a lot of these other institutions coming on board, and that will literally drive the next wave of retail interest, the retail confidence into crypto, and we'll definitely see a lot of new all-time highs. I wouldn't doubt that. And just because you don't hear it on the news doesn't mean it's not happening. Corporates getting into crypto, especially you're a listed company, is a long process. You got to convince your board, you got to convince your internal external board. It takes time. It's a long process for you to get things right. So Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy, he set off something. He set off a trend. I think that's the can is already the worm is out of the can. You can't stop that. It's a thing. Like when 5 billionaires in the world decide to put some part of the network into Bitcoin, the other billionaires, the millionaires, everyone else would go like, are we missing something that these guys aren't? Maybe we should drop our prejudices and really understand this technology from ground up and see really how it can help. And frankly, with the traditional fiat system is going, I think it's just channeling more demand and accelerate that adoption of cryptocurrencies. I think it's 2021 and above, or the next 10 years, is going to be insane. It's like no other better time to be alive and work in this industry.
Amazing. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Exchange. Love sharing your future vision of crypto and obviously answering all those questions about Binance Australia. We'll put up your Telegram details here, obviously Twitter details and things like that. Really appreciate you joining us. Guys, that is Jeff, the man himself. That's the Daily Exchange. Guys, do subscribe, do follow us. We'll see you guys later. Yeah.